friend of the NCRI, the Vice President of the European Parliament from 1999 to 2014, and President of the In Search of Justice Committee, Dr. Alejo Vidal-Quadras.
Thank you. Good evening to you all, and good evening to you, Mrs. President Mariam Rajavi. It is a great pleasure for me to participate once again in the Iranian resistance grand gathering, even if this year, in view of circumstances, we do it online. Anyway, online or in presence, our commitment and enthusiasm is always the same. There are things that do not change in Iran. And the pain of the 1988 massacre of 30,000 political prisoners remains in the heart of families because justice has not been achieved yet. Each time that we talk about the crimes committed by the religious dictatorship ruling Iran, like the 1988 massacre, or indeed the latest case of arbitrary arrest and carnage during last November protest in almost 200 cities in Iran, we hear from the international community sentences like, we call on the Iranian authorities to make investigations and punish the perpetrators. Frankly, these kind of statements sound as a cynical joke. It is clear that the regime's national courts will not investigate the massacre. The Minister of Justice himself was one of the perpetrators of this horrible crime. The Supreme Leader, Khamenei, was involved in it and defends such atrocity. So it is incumbent on the international community to take the initiative and obtain justice over this crime against humanity. A question that many people make is the following: why is the international community, United Nations Human Rights Council, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, and indeed the European Union, why all these organizations and so many governments are so hesitant to do what they should do? In some cases, there is a matter of trade interest which overcomes justice. Sometimes it is due to political considerations, as the appeasers feel shy to convey to the Iranian authorities that cannot be tolerated by the world community. If this is the case, it should be clear that they are acting against our own democratic values and principles. We also hear things like, oh, we cannot interfere with the internal matters of Iran. But let's be serious. This is not an internal matter for Iran. It is indeed an international matter, as it is closely related to our international commitments, respect for the rule of law and our democratic principles. And last but not least, sometimes the international community fears the regime's retaliation through terrorist activities or arbitrary arrest of their citizens in Iran. Then we must not forget that even though this regime is very cruel and brutal, it lies about everything, including its true strength. It has always been weaker than what it pretended to be. And right now, it is at its weakest point. There is a recent example that should convince the international community not to fear the regime and pursue justice. We all know that trial of Asadullah Assadi, the terrorist bomber diplomat of Iran who was to bomb the large gathering of the Iranian resistance in Villepinte in July 2018. We know that this trial started in Belgium 4 days ago. Over the past 2 years, the clerical regime made every effort, including diplomatic pressure, economic incentives, taking European nationals hostage, and even terrorist threats to prevent Assadi's trial and to secure his release. But all these attempts proved to be futile due to the will of the relevant Belgian authorities. Therefore, it is indeed a matter of political will of the international community to pursue justice. Then we will see that the regime is unable to bully us and justice can be achieved. The mullahs are aggressive when they feel the fear in their interlocutors, but they pull back as the coward they are when they confront strong and resolute opponents. In the end, as president of the International Committee in Search of Justice, let me declare that ISJ is committed to search justice in this case, to ensure that all the perpetrators of this crime against humanity, which has remained unpunished for too long, will be held accountable in international courts and punished for committing a crime that is unprecedented in its cruelty and evil nature since the horrors of the Second World War. Thank you very much.